and welcome to today's episode of Power Up Teams, TC Admin Edition with Amanda Stafford and Brittney Brook. So thank you ladies for coming out and joining us today. All right, so we will just jump right into our questions.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Let's start with Brittney. Can you tell us what you do, how long you've been doing this, and your journey into the role you are in?
Yeah, so my journey has not been all that long, but I feel like since on this journey, we've conquered a lot. I first kind of started with Robbie actually as his client. And then, you know, he was extremely persuasive and persistent. If you guys know him, that's about right. And I eventually came in and became an executive assistant / transaction coordinator for him for about the first year and learned a lot. It was like drinking from a fire hose. I always had interest in real estate, but I had a really stable 10-year career going on at Press, and I never thought that I'd be able to back out of that. And doing so, I'd never, ever change it. I would never go back. So yeah, I kind of started and just transitioned roles. I became director of operations and kind of oversaw every and anything. And then now I currently sit as a COO.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's been a journey, definitely. But it's been amazing. And I think anybody who is looking for something really rewarding should get into real estate.
I love that.
Yeah,
that's so good. Amanda.
Well, so I've been working with David Roybal since 2015. I got my license right at the beginning of 2015, so I've been working kind of a higher level since hit the ground running basically for almost 10 years. I started actually as a buyer's broker. David didn't have a team at the time, and so he and I just connected because I just was always at the office and I had just gotten myself started in real estate. And he just said, here, go show this house, here, go do this, go do that. And the next thing you know, we had 20 houses under contract, and he was like, wow, that was pretty easy. And so then we moved on to building a team. And then right after we started the team, he had hired another agent or broker, and his assistant at the time got married and went on maternity leave. And so I said, well, I'll fill in for the assistant because she was supposed to come back. And so I took on that role, and then she decided to stay on maternity leave and, you know, stay home with the baby a little bit longer than expected. So I just kind of jumped in feet first and went for it. And we just made the change, had a team, got up and running, and then we moved to Keller Williams shortly after. And then just kept building, kept a lot of trial and error in those days, and just really figured out what worked best. And, you know, we just did really well. And so then in 2021, I stepped back because it was just a lot and stepped more into just a TC role. So put a virtual assistant in place for him who helps with listings and helps with a lot of his stuff that he needs for his part of the business. And as I was doing TC business only, I was getting tons and tons of calls. So I then started to train other TCs to help with transaction coordinator work in the office. So that's where I'm at today. I have a little transaction coordinator team, and we help several brokers in the office.
That's great. Those are very different journeys, but kind of ended in similar spots. So it's always neat to hear the journey. Okay, question 2 for Amanda. When is the right time for a broker to hire help? Specifically, when should a broker graduate to needing an assistant versus TC?
So I think, in my opinion, I believe that everyone should try to run their own transactions at first, because there's a lot of paperwork involved, and it really helps you get to know the contract and what you're dealing with as far as the purchase agreement, your deadlines, what you're up against. You know, there's a lot of little hidden pieces in the purchase agreement that most people aren't aware of. So I would say when you're ready to hire a transaction coordinator, you should really probably be at about 2 to 3 transactions a month consistently. Your business should be pretty fluid at that point. And then you can hire someone. As far as like an executive assistant, you're probably, when you're really ready to start building your business and you want to work with somebody that's almost your partner and you guys really work well together, that's when you want to hire an executive assistant. They're going to be your right-hand person. They're going to be, if you're out on the field and you're showing houses and you're on listing appointments, you don't have time to be at the office to field all the phone calls, to answer questions, check all the emails. And so when you're at that point, that's when you'll want an executive assistant.
Very cool. Brittney, do you feel the same? Anything different?
Yeah, I would say the same to a lot of what Amanda said. Having a TC can be critical for your business. Like Amanda said, you really need to know the ins and outs of the entire process, I feel. The real estate transaction is not just the negotiations and getting everything like set up and then getting a check at the end. As you guys know, there's a lot that is in between there. And so knowing the ins and outs of all of the documents is going to give you the ability to speak to that and be professional with your clients. But when it gets to a point where you're no longer able to continue your pipeline and move your business because the majority of the work you're doing is documentation, that's really where you have to make that business decision to get a TC to kind of help you and get you back doing what it is that you do best, right? Which is representing the client. And same thing, for an executive assistant, which, I mean, that's a great point. You're gonna be hand in hand with this person all the time. So you guys really have to have a good chemistry and a good workflow. And I'd say starting these roles, you're gonna learn a lot about yourself as a business owner, and a lot about this other person and how to communicate fluidly and understand expectations and kind of lay everything out transparently. And it'll be a journey for sure, but it's gonna speed up your business.
Great. Can you explain the difference between a TC, Director of Operations, and Executive Assistant? Brittney?
Yeah, of course. So TC, Transaction Coordinator, this is gonna be the individual who helps run and maintain everything almost, except for negotiations the majority of the time, for your transaction. So this is taking them through compliance. This is aiding them in coordinating repairs, coordinating inspections, depending on what side you're on. They're going to be a big point of contact between you and the client, just kind of fielding everything back behind the scenes. And so they're really the one that's going to help make that transaction as smooth as possible and coordinating between all parties that are on the transaction. Your executive assistant is going to, depending, you can have somebody that was kind of hybrid like me in the beginning, who's kind of fielding both, but your executive assistant is really going to be the one that helps make the business run as smooth as possible while you're out and about. So this focus, and when you should really consider kind of having an executive assistant, just like how Amanda said, is when you are looking to expand your business, when you no longer have the capacity to just be in the business and you're looking to start working on the business. This is going to be your right-hand person for the longest time, trying to make sure and keep you accountable to everything that you're trying to do, because being a business owner is not easy to do, and it comes with many different challenges and trying to stay on top of everything. And so they're going to be the ones kind of supporting you in that process. And then your director of operations is really going to step in, and that can look like a couple of things. You're going to have eventually a sales manager who's going to kind of help it run the team for us. That was our director of operations position. And so it's being very fluid, not necessarily knowing everything that there is about business, but learning how the business is constructed, having and sharing the same vision and goals as the CEO or as you as a business person, and being the person that manages all of the operations for the business owner. So that way the business owner can be the visionary of the group and look at what they're going to be doing to move the business further and to grow. the operations piece, they're gonna be the one making sure the day-to-day happens.
Well, I think that really covers it. Amanda, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I would say, you know, the executive assistant is the right-hand person, and a lot of times in the beginning, they are the TC and they are the assistant. Then typically that role will grow into an operations manager because they've already done all of these things, and they've already done the transactions. They know how the lead broker works, they know how the team works, they know all the team dynamic. And then once they become the operations manager, you know, then you'll hire a transaction coordinator. And the operations manager is, at least for our team, was more of like a role developer, helps with role development, helps teaching, helps with managing all of the day-to-day operations of the team, so that, like you said, the lead agent can become more of the rainmaker and the visionary of the direction of the organization.
Right out of the red book. Oh, so good. Awesome. Can you share how you add value to your broker's business? Specific examples are also exciting. Amanda? Or like a fun story of a success that you've had where you really felt, wow, I really helped this broker.
Every day.
Bobby says every day.
So one of the things that I feel I helped with is we went from, you know, the lead agent and executive assistant to $50 million production, which made me feel really good because it was, you know, we built this team, we have this baby that we built and we took care of and we nurtured, and all of a sudden it started working. So it was just, you know, having that person so a lot of times the lead broker will be the visionary, and a lot of times the operation person will be one that puts it in place, right? So that's what is great to see, is once you both talk about these things and you have a big vision, everything starts to fall into place because you're working at it and it starts to happen, and it's just really exciting. So, like I said before, it's a lot of trial and error, but it really helps get brokers having your admin people in place. It really helps you get to the next level, and you can't just jump into it. I think a lot of people think it's easy to get into a really big team, but it does take a little bit of time, and it takes a few steps and just learning the process and how to oversee everybody and stay on top of things. There's some stuff that you have to be on top of.
How many people do you have on your team?
Vertical real estate is, I think about 10 right now. Yeah.
And then, so do you work with David, like you kind of brainstorm together and that kind of thing?
Yeah, so, we do a lot of brainstorming as far as, you know, client events. How can we reach out to clients? What do the brokers need to work on? What is something that might be a reoccurring problem that we need to fix? There's, you know, just a lot of little things. I'd say one of the big things too, as an operations person, is when you start to see repetitive problems, you fix them. How do we fix it? How do we put a system in place to fix that? You know, systems is one of the big key words for operations.
So you're more of a partner
Yeah,
with David.
essentially, right? Because he's not thinking about how we fix it. He just knows there's a problem. So that's where I come in and I say, okay, well, let's start doing it this way and, you know, see if that works.
I mean, I always like a partner, but the way you describe it is that's what you are.
Yeah, that's how we operate. So, you know, everybody's different, but that's just how our personalities have always worked well together.
I agree. I think y'all have built a very successful business and it's been really exciting to watch. Yeah. Brittney, can you share how you add value to Robbie and his team and your team?
Yeah, so we have a smaller team. We're looking to grow our team, but we have about 7 brokers on our team. That's including Robbie, 5 of which are currently actively engaging in real estate as their day-to-day. And in terms of adding value to them, I feel like the biggest thing that we do is provide them the proper onboarding to hit the ground running. We've really have done a lot of work to build out our systems and our foundations and processes and training components. So that way we can take, whether it's a 10-year broker who's been in the business 10 years, or it's somebody who's just freshly got their license over to Keller Williams, we can take either of them through that process and have them running at full capacity by the time they're actively doing production on our team. And so I feel like the value that we add is jumping them from starting out not knowing anything, and we're just kind of skyrocketing the process to get them to be more efficient by providing, you know, not just systems and foundations, but we're also providing leverage and support with the team that we have and the people that we have and the experience from Robbie on our team. So I feel like that's the biggest thing that we add as value to our brokers. And then, of course, just having people who are in the office that are always available to be responsive if somebody has a question or has a situation.
Great. This one you kind of answered a little bit on advice for someone who hasn't had any admin assistance. You kind of went over that, do your first couple by yourself and then kind of get a TC. So I'm actually going to combine questions 5 and 6. So when someone is ready to move into that and get a TC and they've had it and they've been working for a while and they're ready to move into more of an executive assistant or an operation manager, what's kind of the path or the journey they should be on, or like the key steps they should take to get there?
Wow.
It's a lot.
Question. No, that's good. You wanna start it out? Sure. Go for it.
Okay, so when you're ready to hire, it really depends on what you're looking for, right? So if you're looking for a transaction coordinator, you know, a lot of people get referrals like, hey, do you have a transaction coordinator? Some people are hiring unlicensed assistants to help with paperwork. And so it really just depends on what you're looking for. You can also train someone. I know that a lot of times brokers don't want to necessarily train, so it's a little bit easier to hire like you know, somebody that just kind of fits in and can handle it. So I would say, whatever you're looking for, if you're looking for the TC that can just kind of jump in and handle your paperwork and take care of things, then maybe just go that direction. And they'll know what to do. They'll know how to get your logins. They'll know how to get all your stuff. But learn from them too. Observe what they do, because a lot of times a TC everybody does the same but different. And so just kind of, you know, keep an eye on how they handle emails, how they handle inspections, how they schedule. Because at some point when you are ready to hire an executive assistant, you may want to train them and have them keep some of these systems that you've been used to, because if somebody comes in and you have to train them and they don't know what they're doing, it's a little challenging. So I don't know, I would just say, pay attention, be a part of your transactions as well. Yes, I know you're relying on the TC to handle all the stuff in between, but just kind of, you know, read your emails, see what's going on, check your calendar, and just be part of it. And then hopefully you can convey that information when you're ready to hire someone else for the next level.
Good advice.
And communication. Oh, that was the one thing I wanted to say. Don't be afraid to communicate, because you might be working with a TC who knows how to do a lot of stuff, but they don't read minds. So make sure you're communicating with them and telling them, hey, I talked to this person. And when you hire your new person to work just solely for you, make sure you are giving them direction, because if you're just coming in and handing them a stack of stuff to do, they may, you know, they might just sit there. They don't know what to do with it. So just don't be afraid to teach and to coach people to how you want to do it. It's okay to speak up and say, hey, can you send this email? Can you do this? Can you do that? That way you guys learn to work together.
No, that's good.
Well, I just had a quick kind of comment, I guess, to kind of like input this. I was on David's team for a long time, and I started using Caitlin when I was on the team, and like Amanda was saying, we just fit together. So like when I branched off on my own, I just contacted Amanda, I contacted Caitlin, and being very open with your TC on like what their expectations are, I think of you as well is big, because like she said, you don't want to just be that realtor that just handle all my paperwork and just let me know when I'm getting home kind of thing, right? Like I call Caitlin at least probably like once a day at least, and just check in with her and. I don't know, we had a really big talk when I first branched off to like, what are your duties, right? So what is your charge? Okay, cool. What are your duties, you know, so I know what I still need to be, you know, accountable for and I guess in charge of. That way there's no like miscommunication, you know, throughout the transaction. I think that's big because you know, the last thing you want to do is lose like your TC, like a good TC's trust. Where maybe they don't want to work with you again because you weren't, you know, responsive or whatever. So I feel like these two girls are really good at what they do, obviously, and it shows, so.
Yeah.
I have a question too. At what point do you go from a flat VTC to a to creating like a salary position for a TP?
So we currently don't have a salaried TC, but I would say it's gonna be dependent on your business need. So I would say when your business can substantiate it and you feel like the value of having a dedicated person that you could, I guess, have more control over like operations, the way in which they work, times, that kind of stuff. That's probably when I would make that decision, but a lot of it's gonna depend on your business structure, the revenue that you're bringing in and if it will substantiate it. And again, if the value is there, right?
I would say when you're ready to jump to a salary position, you probably are more you're looking more for an executive assistant. Because again, they can handle your transactions and whatever the office needs are. So you would want to make sure that you do have a budget for that, what your budget is, you know, and then, you know, if you're looking to pay $40,000-$50,000, that's a full-time employee, right? Or a full-time person. So you would just want to kind of assess where you're at. Do you need a full-time person? Are you looking for someone part-time? And how much time and effort do you want to put into showing them what you need, those kinds of things. So it does come down to just what you need really and how much you have budgeted for salary.
How do you not like overwhelm that person? They're dealing with a lot of transactions and assistant work and potentially like social media marketing type stuff. How do you then say, okay, this person is overwhelmed, I need to hire somebody else? Start with that one.
Yeah.
Let's go for that one. Okay, so I've done there. It is really important to be aware of if they're overwhelmed or not. That is something that I think gets taken for granted a lot. I see it a lot. A lot of people that go into independent TC work come from an assistant background. And it just, you know, they become that go-to person so much that it just never ends. And so I would say if you notice that they're starting to feel overwhelmed, you need a second person. You know, the MREA says to start with 2 admin in the first place, right? So if they're really there, they're just, you know, maybe you hand off the social media piece to an independent contractor, or maybe you hand off the TC piece to an independent contractor, but take something off their plate so that they can do their job well without being so tired and just, you know, it starts to wear you down a little bit. So, you know, if you do notice it, I would say start to think about the next role that you need to incorporate into your business.
When I think, Amanda, I agree with you guys. I think you're probably, number one, you gotta communicate with whoever it is, your TC, your admin, your ops. We don't read minds, although a lot of brokers or salespeople think we do. And they get frustrated when we don't know what they're thinking, but we don't read minds. So I think communication is huge. I like that you said, and I've been in both positions, but you need to touch base every day. It can be 5 minutes. And if you do it every day, then it's just 5 minutes. It's not half an hour, but you need to touch base. You need to communicate. You absolutely need to get your head out of the sand and be aware of where they are in how much they're handling. Yes, you hear all the time, oh, they can handle 100,000 transactions and all that. No, we can't. We can't, but we can't do it the way that we're supposed to do it. And we can't do it well. And so there does come a time when you have to realize, you know, big bang for my buck, 50,000 a year, and she's doing everything, but she may not be doing it real well.
Yeah.
Or to the level that you expect, and that's when you realize that you really probably need to add somebody, whether it's for social media or TC or whatever. Because everybody thinks that we can just do it all, and we are capable of doing it all, but it's a matter of how well you're doing it.
And I think it's
And
like,
then think that the ball starts getting dropped.
yeah,
and then they're aggravated because you're looking, you know, whatever. So I think those are really important things that you've got to communicate, and you've got to pay attention to what you're asking
Yeah.
and what kind of return you're getting for
And
it.
I think I incorporated boundaries with like. for
I think
example,
boundaries
Caitlin,
is a very.
Which I always been good about that, but she, I mean, Caitlin just, for example, just had a baby, so
Yeah.
like. You know, if she doesn't get back to me, I'm not gonna be blowing her up like, hey, I need to call you, you know, call me, like, I totally understand, if it's
Yeah,
later in the
boundaries.
evening, I'm like, hey, we'll talk in the morning, like. I don't know, that's just like little parts of like respect, I think.
Yeah.
For everyone that we should have, but in general, specifically our TC or assistant, you know.
I love that. That's helpful to hear.
Yeah.
Just to kind of add to that too, is, kind of along the realm of communication is find a system that works with you and that person. So in the very beginning, like I'm very much like an analytical, like I can kind of like take on a whole bunch of different things and I go through all the detail, and Robbie's kind of like, give me the baby, not the delivery. Like he just wants like, give me what I need to know. And so, you know, that there's a communication style barrier there, right? So we had to figure out like, what is it that I need to do to improve that communication so you receive what I'm trying to say and vice versa, so that way we can both fulfill what we're trying to do. And one thing that we do is to kind of help is to prioritize things, and we started tracking everything through Asana, and that has been a game changer. I used to use it just for like all my private stuff, and I was like, I need you in on this. And so now we operate, you know, we put all of our projects on there and like what statuses they're in and who's doing what, and deadlines. And that works really well for us because that gives him, you know, something visible to see, like, this is all the stuff that she's got going on. These are the things that she's working on. And it also helps me where I'm like, to me, this might be a medium or a lower priority, but to him, this is a high priority. So that helps me kind of see like where his mind is at and vice versa. So that way we can keep moving the needle and we don't feel like we're just spinning our wheels trying to, okay, put out this fire, put out this fire. Like I'm very much like a proactive person. So I'm all about putting things into place as much as possible to prevent fires as opposed to having to put out fires day to day, because it gets exhausting.
Cool. Let's actually skip to that question. So what are your favorite tools to run your business? You said Asana.
Yeah.
Can you tell us like what is that? Is like a notes app or?
Yeah, so Asana, it's super simple to use. It's a project management software. You can get like the base level for free. And then they have like a higher level. It's made for communicating, developing timelines, prioritizing tasks, all of that kind of stuff. And so I think that's important. We used to just kind of do it through emails, right? And it just gets messy. And so here it's like we both can go in, we can both edit at the same time. It's all live. And so we can go in there and say, hey, I need you to do this, 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 or put tasks on there. And then I can move stuff like the way I have our setup is like things in process, things that are holding, things that, you know, we're running into roadblocks on. And so he can physically, you know, go in and see everything and kind of see where we're at with stuff. And then we have meetings where we discuss this every morning. We have like a real quick 10-15 minute meeting where I'm like, these are the things that are high priority that we're working on. This is where we're at with these things that are on your mind. So that way we can each just kind of go and tackle things.
What's it called?
Asana,
Asana?
yeah,
Is it?
Asana.
Okay.
Yeah, Alex, I think Jocelyn had a question.
Go for it.
Oh, there you go.
Oh, okay.
Cool. What do you guys use for contract writing and things like that?
Yeah, in terms of like the day-to-day like broker business, for transaction coordination, we use TC Docs. When I came in, there really wasn't any like foundations or training or systems. And so part of my role was to build that out with Robbie and for Robbie and for the team. And so, I was looking for a transaction coordination system that will help me as a TC capture every little thing that I needed to hit, because that was like our biggest thing was like for Robbie, he's been doing this for, you know, 16-18 years. And so everything that needs to be done, he's done a million times and he has it all up here. But for me coming in, I was brand new to the industry and I'm fervently writing notebooks full of like all the little ins and outs and things I gotta remember and say this and not that. And so I went exploring for a system. I interviewed a lot of different companies and they're pricey. They're really, really pricey, but one, it can substantially change your business, especially if you're looking at eventually bringing a TC in-house. That's gonna be a big value add component. But, TC Docs is really inexpensive, but it's because you have to go in and build out every little aspect of it. And so putting that in has been, huge, at least in terms for us, because I don't have to call Jamie and say, hey, did you do this? Did you do that? Where are you at with this? Same thing like how Robbie and I use Asana. I use that because I can go in and I say, hey, where are we at with this transaction? What's been done? What emails were sent? And I can just go straight there without having to take her out of her flow of what she's doing to get my questions answered.
Very cool.
So that's probably been one of the biggest systems we've used.
Do you guys use anything else or are those your main two?
We use Follow Up Boss for lead, holding all of our leads, nurturing leads. We have the brokers in there. We've had it, developed and built out, by a professional, and, we have all the action plans, lead nurturing campaigns and everything else, developed in there. So everybody has a system to go to that says, this is what you do for the day. And this is what's expected of you. And as long as you do those things, you're gonna be successful. And that has changed our business.
Awesome. Yeah, Mariah?
So you said you had it built out by a professional, is that someone through follow-up docs, or like, did you contract someone out, or?
No, so, well, yes, so we had an agreement with somebody, so you can, hire people to do different things, but we actually hired a business coach who does this for many other organizations. He's out of California. And, it was interesting because I actually stumbled upon him when I was looking for a TC system. And somebody had mentioned that he has done things in the past. And so we built a relationship, and eventually he coached us on building out our foundations for our business and, hiring the next hires and things, using the MREA. And it was a game changer for us. But he essentially has a lot of tech background. And so he went in and completely revamped our follow-up. That's the process we use today.
I think my question's kind of the same as hers, but is that how you guys created your action plans and your nurture? He gave you the steps on. what
Yeah, so you
expect.
can actually, you can purchase action plans that are already developed, or you could just go in and develop them yourself if you put the time and, thought process into it. But if that's not really up your alley, and I get that, you can purchase action plans. So, there's somebody named Alina Keys. I think is her name. Oh, Alina Keys. I'll get the information and give it to you. But she has action plans that are already developed and like tested. But there's many companies that, depending on like what level of interaction you're wanting and like touch base and how in depth it goes, you can go out and purchase them and they'll implement them, set them all up in your system, and then you just have to plug and play.
Cool.
Did you all start with any of the resources that KW offers, like Command or anything, and then go to that, or did you just go directly to these other platforms?
Yeah, so at least for our team, when I got started with Robbie was already using Follow Up Boss, but just not to its capacity. It was just kind of like a lead house, but it wasn't, it was just like a place to notate and house leads, and it really wasn't being maximized. But we do still use some Keller Williams things. We use Command. Of course, we have to do all of our compliance docs and everything like that. But Keller Williams is a great place to get things started if you don't have those systems, because they provide all of that for you and you pay for it. It's part of what you get, being here. And it's definitely something that you should leverage if you're not at the point of, doing something else, or if you just love the systems that they offer, then stick with it. It's just about finding something and seeing what works for you. I would say.
So do you think Robbie had it before Command came out?
I don't know if it's before Command came out, but he may have had Follow Up Boss prior to coming to Keller Williams.
Right.
Yeah, because he was at other brokerages before, so I think that was kind of his tool, and you can kind of move around and still have that since it's not owned by the brokerage.
Cool. I think that's great advice. Amanda, what do you guys use for stuff?
So David also uses Follow Up Boss. He has had that since I want to say 2019. So we've had it for quite a while. So that's a really good lead system, but Command is also, it's free. So if you guys have if you don't have Follow Up Boss, you don't have another lead generation system, by all means, yeah, I would suggest using Command. One of the things I set up for David's team, I don't know if you ever ended up setting it up, but it's CTE, it's a CTE tracker. It's a Keller Williams specific Excel spreadsheet that is great for teams. You can enter splits, you can enter transaction fees, it calculates everything. So it's a very useful tracker. And like you can pull up each broker that is using it, you can pull up how many sales they've had in the month of June or the month of March or, you know, the last 6 months. So it's super easy to use and you just enter each sale as you close them out. Or if it falls off or it's under pending, you go to I think it's the scoreboard and it shows you how many pendings you have, how many closed sales you have. It's just a really nice tracker that was set up. So that's one of the tools that we use for closed sales. We used to do an old fashioned Excel spreadsheet. So we were really happy to get into the CTE. It's much better. I use all kinds of stuff for my personal systems. I use a spreadsheet for transactions. I have cover sheets for transaction that I go through daily. I use Google Docs. I do use TC Docs. Once you build out your checklist in TC Docs, it's really cool and very helpful. And you can just import your checklist for each file. So and it doesn't cost much, like Brittney said. So if you're looking for something that can be a very thorough checklist, that's a good one. I use Folio because that helps put everybody on a timeline for the transactions.
What was the one you said before, Folio?
TC Docs.
Oh, TC bot?
Docs.
Like document.
Oh,
Yeah,
Docs.
TC Docs, and it's essentially just a checklist, but Brittney's taken it a step further and you can build out emails and you can operate out of that platform pretty easily.
Where is that out?
It's a separate web-based system, so it's not necessarily like proprietary to Keller Williams,
No, yeah.
but oh yeah, so it's just a separate web-based system.
Okay, so is and that's what you would Google TC Docs.
Yeah.
.com, whatever.
Yeah, it's actually really cute. It's a husband and wife that own the company. And the wife was a transaction coordinator and she needed something and he was a software developer. And so he was like, let me fix your problem.
Oh, wow.
And, you know, it's helped her. And so then she was like, hey, we could do something with this. And so now they have it available for other people to purchase. And I mean, to get started, again, you have to pour the time into it, but it can do so much. The only thing that it lacks in comparison to other TC softwares is a lot of automation. So like Brivity has a good TC system and it has a ton of automation you can build into it to really speed stuff up for TCs. But if you're just looking for something to kind of like, this is how I want my stuff ran, use this checklist, it's great.
All right. You're good, because that's exactly why we use it, right? So I use several different systems, no big hub of a system for myself, but I do know that for running teams, Follow Up Boss and CTE really helps just keep everything in front of you. Keep your leads, who's working on what lead as far as the team goes. And then the CTE tracks all your sales and just kind of how much everybody's, you can look at volume, you can look at commission, you can look at, it really breaks it down. So those are two really good systems for teams.
Cool, that's great. For our next question on what do you do to keep your structure, I think you kind of answered that with what systems, but what do you do motivationally? I know that obviously you're very structured already, people being in these roles, but do you ever kind of say, oh gosh, this is getting too much, or what do you do to reset?
That's good. I'd say for me personally, like in terms of motivation and kind of resetting, it's like kind of going back to like what Javi said is kind of drawing boundaries for yourself. A lot of people that kind of fill these roles, at least from what I've met and experienced, and myself personally, we tend to kind of overachieve, which can be a good thing, but at the same time, it can also be detrimental to yourself. And so when you're hiring these positions, they're supposed to provide you leverage, but if they are fully maxed out and not able to provide the value that you need, that's no longer leverage for you. Because now you're having to pick up all the odds and ends and pieces. So I would say, for me, the way that I reset is giving myself like a time during the day, in the evening or whatever, where I just kind of like shut down from technology. Like I won't even watch TV or anything, and I just like do something different. Like for me, or even during like midday, like I go for walks just around here, just to get outside and like not be in front of a computer. For me to kind of like reset personally, and that adds so much value to when you come back in to do business, because you're charged and ready to go and you're wanting to do the things that you have to do, as opposed to feeling like it's a burden. So for me, it's like making like, I call them like energy snacks, where you just like throughout the day, you just fit in a little bit, like 5-10 minutes as you can, or like take a call outside or do stuff on your phone outside or whatever, and just kind of reset that way. And then, of course, everybody loves vacations, right? So
Yep.
vacations are a great way to reset.
Those are good. I like the little energy snacks.
Yeah,
I
energy
feel that.
snacks.
Very cool. What about you, Amanda?
So I don't know, because I have kids in sports, so when I'm not working, I'm at sports. So, but I do make it a point to go for a run a lot. That really helps clear my head. So I try to run, and I have a trainer, so I do get exercise in the week, during the week. So that helps me a lot, because it can be overwhelming. It's constant contact game that we're in, right? People are constantly calling, texting, emailing. So I do keep myself on a pretty tight schedule. I check emails from 8 to 6. Stay on top of all my things, make sure I stay on top of my correspondence via text, emails, everything. And then I do try, I cook dinner almost every single night. So I try to turn off computers at that point, and then maybe check just before bed, just to make sure nothing catastrophic has happened. And then just get some workouts in during the week. So and then I'm at sports. My daughter plays volleyball, so I'm at volleyball for hours at a time. My son's in cross country, so we go to cross country meets. And those are actually really good ways to reset, because I'm connecting with people outside of business. I'm talking to parents, I'm talking to coaches, so that helps me a lot too, because it's a distraction. So even though I might have to answer a text or an email here and there, it's still a nice getaway. So I'd say that's probably how I reset.
That's great, especially the runs. That's a good thing to add in for me. Okay. Let's go back to what's been your biggest challenges in your roles that you're currently in?
I would say for myself, it's, and it kind of goes back to like the boundaries thing, is knowing what that work is always gonna be there. Like I used to, like previously, I used to, have a job where it was kind of like, you get everything done and then you could just like shut down mentally afterwards, and then you leave and then you come back. And so with this, there's always going to be something. So I think for myself, it's just learning how to prioritize the biggest things that are gonna move the needle and get those done first in my day. So that way the rest of the day is as light as possible. And I'm just at that point kind of like on autopilot, just getting everything done. And then really just trying to give myself the ability to accomplish things without over processing.
Mhm.
And just being really time efficient.
I think prioritizing is probably the number one thing, because you obviously want to tackle your biggest things first and get those out of the way, and then everything else will work itself out. So just being mindful of your time management, try and get the big things done, as soon as possible, and the other things just, work on them throughout the day, and you'll manage to get it all done. And then more things come up. Like you said.
Exactly. Always something new. Cool. Well, I have one more question, but before that, does anybody else have any questions or comments that they'd like to ask? We crushed it. Oh, good. Cool. Well, very last, is there anything else that you guys want to add on how you guys benefit adding an operations person once a broker is ready?
Yeah, I would say that the biggest part, and the MREA does a really good job of kind of laying this out, is that you're focusing your time on the things that you do best and using your skill set. And so these individuals are going to allow you to do that because it's allowing you to leverage your time better. So I think when you're considering people for these roles, I wouldn't be quick to make a hire just because it's a need and you're strained. Don't just jump into the first thing. Really find somebody that you're gonna meld with, because you're kind of like, you know, in business in bed with this person for quite some time. And then if it doesn't pan out, you're gonna have a lot of issues and aggravation during that time when it was supposed to kind of free you up and make things easier for you. And then you're gonna be back where you were in the first place, looking for somebody else. So I would just say, they can add a lot of benefits and value because it gives you back your time, but just be really strategic and take the time to hire the right person.
I think when you're ready to get your operations person in place, your business is really growing and you're really truly ready to build a large, you know, an organization. That's essentially what you're doing. It's a company. I kind of think of, you know, an operations manager as if you were running a restaurant, you would have or if you owned a restaurant, you would have a general manager, right? That's essentially what your operations person is going to be doing so that you can be free to maybe, you know, open more restaurants or whatever. So same concept in real estate, your operations person is going to give you that leverage to whatever it is that you want to do. Maybe you want to focus on a whole different business, or maybe you want to just focus strictly on sales and come in and just get everybody excited, and that's all you want to do anymore. You want to bring in business, you want to say, here, go show houses. And just kind of let your operations person oversee your team, help define everything, define the roles, make sure everybody's doing what they need to be doing, and just work cohesively together to run a successful business that works, that really leads everybody to a good life.
Very cool. Well, I think that sums it up for today. Thank you so much to Brittney and Amanda.